Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. I am moisturized, I'm ready to go, and I'm going to be doing probably we should call it nearly full face of Morphe. I say nearly full face because they don't really have products like a foundation or a concealer, but they've got a lot of palettes. I've got a random little assortment of other things that they make, and I have brushes too. And I can be using those brushes pretty much every step of the way, I think. But why Morphe? Well, I feel like ever since the brand has come into Ulta stores, I've gotten steadily more questions about it. And I've said in the past, like, I feel like it's way hyped up, and I have tried a little palette here or there, like back in the day, like quite a while ago, and I honestly wasn't like floored by it, but I thought, yeah, it's fine. I just kind of felt overwhelmed for a period there with just coupon codes from various people. Like everybody was trying to sell Morphe, I felt like. And I just thought, well, there's probably enough content out there about it. Who needs to know from me? But maybe that whole phase has prompted some people to actually care what I think about it and ask me a lot of questions about it. I got 2 brush sets because I thought that would give me a really good sense of the quality of face brushes and eye brushes. I've got their continuous setting mist. I have various cheek products, eye palettes, so we're just gonna jump in and get going with this. I will start with actually a brush that I think will be similar to maybe a Sigma P80 for my foundation, and this comes out of the face brush set. I'll link to those below, but they don't give like the brush names on the actual brush, but if you go to Ulta's website, it lists what they are specifically. And let's see, what would be interesting to use right now? I think I'm gonna use my CoverGirl True Blend Matte Made foundation. I at first started using this in the M20 shade, realized it was too light, and I've moved to M30 actually, which is honey. I just need to drink a coffee here. My coffee is the perfect level of warmth right now, so I really got to soak that up. Let's do 1 full pump, and as I normally do, I just kind of, patch the product around. I have had really good staying power with this foundation. I wore it in some pretty sweaty conditions, and wore well. Now, I gotta tell you guys, I was expecting to be seeing Luke Combs this week in concert. And guess what? Bub was a month off. We do have tickets, but they're for July 20th. No big deal. I was just really looking forward to it this week. And I randomly went online and got a special ticket, and I was gonna see if I could figure out what it entailed. And I'm like, Bub, did you realize this was July? Oh crap. So this brush, I feel like it's a little smaller maybe than a Sigma P80, but it's getting the job done pretty much just as well. I mean, the cut of the brush seems to be super even. I'm not seeing any stray hairs. It's very soft. It's just one of those dense buffing type foundation brushes, and I think it did a good job there with the foundation. And this foundation I would not call full coverage, by the way, if anyone's wondering. I think it's a strong medium coverage. Just putting that out there. If you've got absolutely perfect skin, you might put it on and be like, oh wow, this is full coverage. But if you've got some stuff, like some issues, you're gonna realize it's not full coverage. What did I just do there? For concealer, actually, I'm gonna be using this one from ColourPop. It's the No Filter concealer. I've got a bunch of new ColourPop stuff, including the foundation, and I'm still trying to figure it out. On most YouTubers' timelines, I realize the video would have already been posted now, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. The first few times I've worn the products, concealer and foundation I'm talking about, I thought maybe they were drying me out. I tried to really prep and moisturize my under eye area today in hopes of maybe reversing that a little bit. I may have gone a little light with it. It's light 14. Brush is seeming just a little loose, a little bit floppy for concealer. As you can see, kind of for my dark circles, this concealer right now wasn't really a miracle worker. I can still see my melasma through it. I'll just add a little bit more, see if I can build it up, because I didn't apply a lot. I think part of this is that I have a pretty light shade. I also wonder what would happen if I take the foundation brush. That's better coverage. There we go. But yeah, as I was saying, I will have, a full thing on tons of new ColourPop and maybe older ColourPop too in a video. I'm just not ready to give a verdict on it yet. and I think it deserves more than just a first impression. I think I'm going to pick up a little bit of Maybelline Fit Me and actually use this brush that I was starting to use for concealer for a little under eye setting powder. It's kind of reminding me of my e.l.f. small tapered brush. I feel like I'm cheating a little bit on that brush, as I use that brush daily. This is nice. This is maybe a little fuller, but definitely the same shape. Not really baking the under eye. I am just setting it lightly. I have really no complaints about the quality of these brushes though. They feel soft, they feel nice, like it's a pretty design. It's almost like this rose gold ferrule and then kind of like an old gold bronze type look, light bronze to the handles, which I think is pretty. And it came in a really generously sized pouch, like I was actually able to fit the setting mist in there. And this is a product to try for another time, but I have their sponge as well. I just wanted to focus in on the brush kits, so I could really tell you how the brush kits work. But yeah, I've been hauling some Morphe around here. Let's use this product here. This is something called Brontour, and it's bronzer plus contour in Celebutant. They had this in a lot of different shades, and I think they describe it as a radiant bronzer and then a matte contour shade. And you could mix them, you know, you could get sort of your own custom type color. You can use just each side. It's a nice little compact with a mirror. And I do like this packaging. It's very clean. It's very just simple. And I think I'll use this larger kind of egg-shaped powder brush. I'll go into that contour side, and it's a really sunny kind of color there, you know what I mean? I think it looks really pretty, like around my hairline. See that? Is that showing up to anybody? Don't mind me just giving myself a little J-Lo forehead here this morning. I'm gonna kind of go into both and just, I always do this. I always bring that bronzer down the neck and onto the chest. Any bronzer that I use, any contour shade, you probably see this happening. I might just fast forward through it and you're like, what is she doing? But that's what's up. Then take a little bit more of that, and we will just put it here in the hollow of the cheek and see what happens. Actually, I'm going a little higher than the hollow of the cheek. I feel like this is kind of playing okay with my skin right now because I've got a decent amount of a sort of tan. I've got some color in my skin right now going on. But I think for a lot of people, just of my general skin tone or lighter, you might find even just the contour side of this pretty warm. Then I think I'll go over here to this bronzer side, which that's a pretty light, you know, bronzer with a sheen. And I've got a little bit of that on my brush, and I'm just gonna sweep that over like the tops of the cheeks, where the sun's gonna naturally hit. Bronze Goddess. I would say that's a pretty decent product. The texture of the powders, you know, they're pigmented. Like, look, there's a lot of color coming off of that contour shade. There are so many bronzers and contours on the market, but there aren't a lot that are kind of combining the two steps into one sort of easy compact. So I think that's kind of cool. Now, another thing that I got, which I feel like is a little overkill just for me and my needs, but I'll show you. It's the 8L Lo-Fi Highlight and Contour Palette. There are some in here like this shade I don't feel like I'm going to use a lot. This color is extremely warm. There are maybe a couple of contour shades that I would use, and then you've got these highlights over here. I never really use a fan brush for highlighting, but we're going to go for it today. I think I'm going to use this Supernova color, this peachy one. See if that does anything for us. One day I was really heavily using the Stardust, and I'm like, why isn't that showing up very much? Turns out it's kind of a pinky tone color. Like, it doesn't really look just white, it's actually pink. Get a little more. I feel out of my element using this fan brush right now. Where's my Moda Highlight and Glow brush? I feel like it's going on though. I'm getting a little highlight. I'm not really fussing too much about like the quality of this palette. I just think maybe, you know, it's a little more like suiting a makeup artist's needs, and it's more than what I need. And you guys have heard me talk about how much I love my Lorac Pro Contour Palette, and that gives you a little variety, but it's not quite this much, and I feel like still every shade in that palette I end up using. And here I feel like there's a lot of real estate that I wouldn't really end up using. And I don't love like that yellowy highlight, and the one that actually turns out to look really pink, I'm just kind of about. I guess we're doing highlight before blush today. today. I have a blush palette. It's Blushing Babes, I guess it's called, and I got the one called Pop of Blush. So they've got different shades you can choose from, and this has the colors Sexy, which is like a really soft peach with kind of a satin finish. Fearless appears to be like a matte pink, and then Witty seems to be a peachy corally shade with a lot of golden shimmer in it. I'm going to use their little angled brush for this, and I'm going to go into that pink, which I was using this the other day, and I thought this was a really fresh little color here. And I'm kind of wanting to fall into a new blush brush also, and this is a pretty good one too. It's angled kind of, so it could easily, you know, become your contour brush as well. But I love a little fresh pink pop on the cheeks. It's nice. Let's also layer up a little bit of the lighter color. There's a lot of fallout happening here, a lot of like dustiness. I'm not super mad at it, but I'm just letting you know. I'm just kind of layering over it. I feel like I've made the pink just a little more peach now. And this will be a blush for another day because I think it kind of needs to be used all in itself. It's a distinct color on its own. Look closely at it and I think you'll see there's a lot going on with Witty over there. So I have this can of setting spray. It says, defend your artistry. A microfine mist sets liquid or powder makeup with a radiant finish. Hold the bottle 8 to 10 inches away from face, close your eyes, and apply the mist all over your face. Okay, I can't get used to it. When you press the thing down, there's a little like thing that it hits that you wait for and you're like, when's it gonna start coming? It's a really fine mist. I do feel like lightly hydrated now on top of everything. I definitely haven't used this enough to get a really good feel for the staying power. I feel like I have to use the heck out of like a setting spray to really understand it. It took me a long time with like Milani Make It Last to figure that out because I think you gotta use it enough to where you've put it through the test of different foundations, and is it kind of like good no matter what, or is it only good when you use certain products underneath? So I'm going to keep at it, but my initial thought is that yes, it made me look a little more dewy right away after I put it on. And I feel like I sprayed on a decent amount. I'm going to do my brows real quick and then I'll join you for the eyes. This is the Morphe Eyelid Primer. It says translucent on it, and I have used this and I feel like it works pretty darn well. It's a nice consistency. It has that kind of beigey look that Milani Eyeshadow Primer also has. It's really smooth. I like that it applies very easily across the lids and doesn't seem to pull at certain areas. I don't feel like I have to work real hard to get it all smoothed out. And it kind of leaves the right amount of tackiness. Like, it's not a sticky eye primer, but it leaves just enough going on there, you know, to help a shadow really cling in and I think do its best. So I don't really have any complaints about this eye primer. By the way, before we get into the eyes, let's just talk prices here for a second, because those brush kits that I got, the Complexion Goals kit is $25. You're getting 5 brushes in a pouch there, so about $5 each. I Slay brush collection, this next one I'm going to be using, is $18. The Continuous Setting Mist was $15. The Blush Trio was $12. The Sculpting Palette was $25. The Bronzer was $12. I mean, I feel like it's kind of falling in line with, you know, right at or a little above drugstore prices. For some of their larger palettes, though, I'm seeing like $23, $29. Jaclyn Hill palettes, $38. So some of those are a little bit all over the place, but there are better bargains you can get on brushes. From what I've used in these little like pouch collections, I've realized there are some really good brushes. I don't feel like they're grossly overpriced. Okay, I've got a few palettes here I want to just talk about for a minute. This one, the Jaclyn Hill palette, this you know, has been talked about a lot here on YouTube, and a lovely viewer of mine named Jill actually gave this to me, so thank you so much, Jill. I've had my hands on it for a while, and this is the color scheme if you haven't seen it. I feel like it's a good group of basics. I think it's a great quality palette. You know, the shades work well. I had this one break over here, this purple, but I'm not holding that against it or anything. It just got a little messy. There's a good balance of like dark and light happening here. I would say the one thing I come away with, like outside of this little corner here, I feel like we've got just a lot of like the gradient effect. The light to dark, a lot of pretty shades, but a lot of shades that are kind of similar. A lot of pretty neutral looks to be had. Again, you've got this splash over here that feels a little bit funky to me. I'm not like trying to pick on the palette because I think overall it's like a good, just really basic benchmark palette. But why not have like a few different colors that aren't just like 4 really bold bright ones, but maybe like a couple pastel colors here and there, or like a really rich plum or something like that. Sprinkle in even more things that prompt me to do some different ideas with my look. And from what I've seen, I don't own them, but the palettes that are in that vault that she's put out, those seem to be sprinkled in with a little bit different like ideas and color schemes. Then I have this 24G, this is called the Grand Glam. Look at the size of these shades. Like, these are giant, okay? These are giant eyeshadows. This is a ton of shadow. I can't remember what I paid for this. $29, but I mean, this is a lot of eyeshadow. And if you love this warm, verging on rosy and warm brown color scheme, like, this is a lot of product. These pans are like the size of typical blush pans, let's say. I like the way most of them applied the last few times I've used it. And then there's this Dare to Create palette. This is the 39A. This is bigger than both of those. I mean, you got a damn Trapper Keeper here, and what's missing? Need some highlight kind of colors, right? Even this shade up here that's kind of catching the light, like, that's a bronze. They've given you this row of neutral mattes. You've got beautiful colors. There's actually a pretty spectrum in here, but I can't get past the fact that the palette is this big and there's no like couple of light shades. It's like they're gonna say, okay, we expect you to carry around this. And you know what? You're gonna have to find your own highlight shades and take them on top of this big old thing. This is massive. And the fact that it doesn't have that is really taking away a lot of my enjoyment for this palette. There was so much room in here for there to at least be something to highlight your eyes with, like a matte one, a shimmery one. I could settle for just two. I am gonna use this today actually, because I do wanna use some of the colors in here that I haven't used yet, and I'll just go to my 24G and I'll use some of these shades for my highlight. One other thing about Morphe packaging, like, I don't think it's unattractive packaging at all, and I feel like it is pretty solid, but I would love, with palettes this size, I would love it if there was, instead of just a magnetic closure that's really not super strong, I would love it if there was actually a clasp closure, because I would feel a lot more secure about it, because these are big palettes. Like, if the top of one of these comes open, there's a lot to potentially get screwed up in there. I'm sorry, I just feel like I've gone on and on into sort of review mode on these, but what I'm going to do is take this it's so big. I'm gonna use this brush that comes in my little brush pouch here, and I'm just gonna dip into this guy. This seems like a good shade to start with. And I'm gonna put that in my crease. It feels funny not using my Sigma E25 here. This is a little different cut. As you can see, it's not pinched at the top of the ferrule, but it still does a fine job of getting my color here. My experience with these Morphe palettes has been, yes, I'm getting good eye looks. I just sometimes have some questions about the way everything was all put in there, and the shade selection, and the amount of space and real estate, you know, in a palette that they devote to eyeshadow, and just the choices that were made. And so many of their palettes, like you look on Ulta's website, they give you a boatload of eyeshadows and even some really generous sizes, but the color schemes and like the color families are just so like in the same. And if they're gonna release a bunch of products, like I love how fun this one is actually color scheme wise, but again, the highlighter type shade is missing. Next, I think I'll go to this orangey color right up here. Keeping the same brush, we'll intensify that crease a little more. Pretty shade. Okay, there's another brush in here that's about the same size as what I've been using. It's maybe, I don't know, feels a little bit softer, and I'm just going to use that to kind of blend over the edges. Not that I have any real harsh edges going on here, but just kind of buff over that. And then one small gripe that I have with this little brush set is that I wish there was something really, really flat. Like, this is sort of the pack-it-on type brush, I feel like, and it's a little thick, and I've just gotten really used to liking a super flat brush to do that job, but this can work, and we're gonna make it work today. I'm going to use some green. I'm gonna take first off this kind of goldeny olive. Sorry, it's huge. Get some of that. And I feel like the shimmers go on best with a little bit of a swipe across the lid, which doesn't surprise me because that's how a lot of shimmers these days seem to go on. Living their best life is with a bit of a swipe. That's an interesting color. Now, do you remember when there was a Morphe palette with Kathleen Lights? And that was a little smaller palette, and I liked that one. I remember there was like a random kind of green in there. I felt like there was a nice little splash of different things happening in it. Just throwing that out there if anyone has a memory of that, because that was one of the few Morphe things that I had used before more recent products. Let's go to this green. I'm kind of intrigued by that one. Ooh. I like that, and I kind of like that I set this up a little orangey in the crease because it looks kind of cool, that green. Okay. And then finally, I think we'll go on with this deepest olive. This brush is doing okay, actually. Like, it's got some thickness to it, like I said, but it can still pack on some shadow. That is a swampy green lid though, like that is some serious olive. Now, I want to tell you guys something I'm really excited about. I got this brush separately on Ulta's website. This was not in the little pouch, and it's the M506. And I was looking for something that could be the same as my MUA Makeup Academy 315. And I think I found its long lost sister here, because this one, I have people telling me like, I can't find that MUA one. I want a really small like outer corner brush. And I just thought this looked similar on the website. You can never really tell size wise what you're getting, but I'm so glad that it's the same. And it's like the same kind of amount of movement in the bristles. It's the same cut really. So this would be a great alternative to that. Anyway, I need to blend a little bit. Having pretty good experiences with the brushes. I just want to pop something a little different in the outer corner. This brown almost looks to the point of being plum. That might be a little different. I want a little darkness. That's cool. I just feel like it's such a shame that there aren't a few light shades in this palette, because it is really a pretty palette that has so many options otherwise. And I know I could just grab out like a single, or I could open up another one of my zillion eye palettes, but it's just the principle of it. Like, you got a palette this huge and you're not going to give people one thing. Like, it just leaves me wondering who signed off on that idea. I love this brush though. I'm so glad I found something that's hopefully a little more accessible for people than that other one that maybe you could find at a CVS, maybe you couldn't. Kind of want to just take a little bit more of a warm shade and just sort of finish off this transition-y area here. I think that looks cool. I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to go into this big old daddy here, and I will use this shimmery shade. Those shimmers though, and I was realizing this the other day, they don't apply as nicely with a brush like this. Like, they're stronger in a packed on capacity, but obviously I don't really want to pack it on right under my brow bone, so it's just gonna be what it will be. The brushes you haven't seen me use in the kit yet, there is one that would be good for like a gel liner. That actually looks really good. It's very small. I have not used that yet. I also have not yet used this one, but this could be good, you know, like under the eye, stamping on a little bit of powder shadow as a liner. And then I was really glad I got this because I lost my previous pencil brush, but there's a nice little pencil brush, and I was using that the other day and it worked really well. I think I will also try to use that brush a little bit, maybe take some of this light shade, see how well it'll pop around my inner corner. Just for a little bright. It's kind of a goldeny color. Again, this is the Grand Glam 24G with the eyeshadows that are like the size of actual cookies. And then let's take this nice rich milk chocolatey brown and just smudge a little bit of that under the eye. It's such a mossy green. That's the name of this green that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Mossy. Just such an earthy eye look in general. I really like it. And I'm just kind of smudging that one shade that I put under here until there's nothing really left on my eye. Keep the focus sort of on the upper part of the eye. I'm going to put my Wet n Wild Ultimate Brow Highlight in my lower inner rim, as I like to do often when it's not a really like dark and smoky look. And use the extra Wake Up today. I'm going to finish off my eyes with a little liner, probably some lashes, mascara, and put on a lip color because I don't have a Morphe lip color. And then I'll rejoin you, show you the finished look, and just some final thoughts. Okay? Okay, I actually decided to forego the extra lashes, and I just used my CoverGirl Supersizer 2 coats of that because I kind of felt happy with it, and I thought I'll give my eyes a break from the lashes. On my lips, I kind of thought this color might play nicely with this sort of mossy, warm look. It's the M Cosmetics True Gloss and Caramel Glaze. This I thought wasn't really one of my favorites of the bunch, but for certain looks, I don't know, certain things you're pairing it with, I think it can work pretty well. Would you like me to take this off? Is this distracting anyone? Morphe, Morphe, Morphe. I think I have had a pretty good experience with the brushes. I like that they had some kits available on Ulta's website, and for the most part, I really liked what was in the kits. This brush, this was the 5-piece face brush set. I'm not in love with a fan brush for highlighter. A lot of people might be, but just generally speaking, I think it was a good little assortment here. I would have maybe liked something that could have been even more effective at concealer, like just a little bit smaller brush perhaps. But still, realistically, I'm probably going to take a lot of my brushes that I already have and kind of put them into this mix, and I think these are good. I think I'm going to be using this blush brush a lot. I think this will be in my foundation rotation. This for powder too, I kind of like that egg shape, and I thought it applied bronzer really, really nicely. That was a good face brush kit. What I might like even more, however, are the eye brushes, which is kind of rare. Like, I'm sort of surprised that I was able to just jump into a completely different set of eye brushes than what I'm used to using, and I did feel really comfortable with them. You've got that kind of flat brush, which I could have liked it to be even more flat and precise, like toward the tip mainly. Like, the nice thing about a really flat brush is that it can just like get exactly where you want it to go. I still feel like I had control with this. It was just different from what I'm used to. This little guy, I did use that a little bit off camera, just under my wing there, and that was pretty good. If you're into cream and gel liner, I think this would be outstanding. It looks like a really fine cut to that. Love the pencil brush, and I really like these two kind of blendy brushes. This one getting shadow in the crease was awesome, and this even softer one was really nice, just blending out the edges. And then this little gem of a find, just individually, the M506 for an outer corner color, I thought was really good, and I was glad to finally, you know, find something that was similar to that MUA brush that is very hard to come up with. Another high point for me was the eye primer. I thought that was actually really good. It's performed well for me every time I've used it. Other little products here, the Bronzer, like, this was a good product. I don't know that it's a total necessity, like everyone must have this, but I thought it was kind of a creative concept to have the shimmer and the matte side by side. I did like the color on my skin. I do like my blush trio also. I really like a pink blush like that. I'm excited to get more use out of this one, but today I just kind of layered up those two, and I think it's really pretty on the cheeks. And I like that they had a lot of different color options on the blushes. The whole palette here, maybe in a makeup artist realm, this would be really useful. Just for me, like, I felt like the Bronzer was probably adequate in terms of a bronzy contour type shade. The only thing that was missing would be the highlight, so I had to use highlight from here, and I wasn't in love with it. I didn't think all those highlighter textures were just amazing. This mist, to be continued. I'm going to keep using this and test this out and see how effective it is actually for helping the staying power of my makeup, but it's something to get used to. You know, this aerosol can to spray it at your face, kind of forget like how much control you feel like you have over the pump style sprays. So it's different, but I'm going to keep trying that. The eyeshadow palettes, I got these three that I kind of brought up here. I can't say I've had like a bad experience where I did a look and it completely bombed, you know, like failed experience with the palettes. I feel like I've been able to make any of them work for me. You know, there may be some shadows that you need to pack on a little more heavily. There might be some shades that just require a little different technique, but I mean, that's just eyeshadow. That's what you'll find with any product, so I don't really hold that as a strike against these. I just kind of wish there was more creativity or just a few more perhaps risks taken or just different ideas thrown into palettes that are this large. You know, there's so much space. There are so many things you can do, I feel like. If you look through a big lineup of Morphe palettes, like on their website, there's sort of, the word that kind of comes into my mind is generic. You almost wonder if they just put into a computer like neutral eyeshadows and it generated this palette that was just full of all one tone of taupey eyeshadow or all one tone of warm eyeshadow. And boom, that's what you're getting. And no individual went in and said, well, why don't we mess this up a little bit and put in, you know, a few little oddballs. It seems to me that they're churning out out quite a few products, and I think they should put some things out that take a few more risks. With the Jaclyn Hill palette, I think this is a really good palette, and I think it's a good selection of basic shades, especially if you like a lot of like more mattes. They've really got that covered in here. When I look at big palettes, my mind goes back to a Lorac Mega Pro palette, like the Mega Pro 2 or just different ones that they've put out. It was a really specially put together assortment of shades that never looked generic. All the shades had important reasons for being there, and you would stumble across color combinations that would prompt you to go in all kinds of different directions. And it might just be because, oh, here's this like weird kind of minty greenish gold, different takes on things. And I feel like brands could challenge themselves a little more by not just doing straight up gradients of neutrals and actually throw in some stuff that can prompt people to go in really different directions. And not just for the purpose of, you know, here's your brights, but like those off the beaten path kind of colors. Is anybody feeling me on this? And then talking about these other two here, the Dare to Create and the Grand Glam. I mean, these are massive palettes. I think the Grand Glam, I mean, if you're into those colors, you're getting loads of them. If you like rosy, if you like warm. I've done several really pretty looks with this, so I can't complain really quality-wise. I just think it's funny that those shadows are so huge. And the Dare to Create, I think they've got a really good thing going here with all these different colors. I just wish they could have thrown us a bone and given us a couple light shades. Feel free to disagree with me. This is just my 2 cents on the matter. I'm coming at this from just one person's perspective, my brain to you. And I feel like there's kind of a reason that goes beyond just like, oh, I feel like Morphe's been so hyped up, it's been so talked about, nobody really needs my opinion on it. I feel like there's been a little something underneath all that too. And it's with a lot of these palettes, which I'm a very like into palettes type of person, but there haven't been a lot of palettes that they've put out where I've been like, oh my gosh, I need that. They haven't given me that feeling, and I think it's just because I'm starting to be a little bit more into something that's going to offer me something a little unique, you know? But yeah, let's get the conversation going in the comments section. What should I try from Morphe that I haven't yet tried? What are your favorites and least favorites? I don't have any coupon codes, so don't go looking for those, but I will have the products that I've used linked below if you want more info. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.